The early hours of February 17, 2026, saw Buckingham Palace buzzing with an intensity rarely captured in modern history. Prince William, flanked by Princess Anne and the Duchess of Edinburgh, emerged before the press, a figure of measured authority in a moment heavy with consequence. He announced that the marriage settlement between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, signed just 2 days prior, was now legally binding. The words carried a gravity that resonated not only through the press gallery, but through the very halls of the historic palace. This was more than a divorce announcement. It was a decisive, irreversible act with consequences for the monarchy, for the children at the center of the dispute, and for the public perception of the institution itself. The Crown had acted with the precision of centuries of constitutional duty, enforcing a framework designed to protect the lineage and stabilize the monarchy's fragile public image. Before we begin today's royal update, I want to take a quick moment. Many of you watch these videos but haven't subscribed yet, and you don't want to miss the latest developments and fascinating stories from the world of royalty. Subscribing is completely free and keeps you updated as everything unfolds. While you're here, tell us, where are you watching from? Share it in the comments. It's amazing to see viewers joining us from all around the world. The path to this moment had been fraught with tension and strategic legal maneuvering. On February 3rd, Princess Anne presented the Markle withdrawal file to King Charles and Prince William during an emergency session at Windsor Castle. The document detailed alarming breaches of protocol. Archie and Let had been withdrawn from their California schools without prior notice. Medical appointments were obstructed, and communication with royal child welfare officers had been severed. Even more severe, Meghan had authorized the dissolution of a £6.3 million education trust intended for the children's welfare in the United Kingdom. The palace interpreted these actions as a deliberate pattern of disengagement that threatened both the psychological stability of the children and the integrity of the monarchy's guardianship protocols. The following day, the Duchess of Edinburgh was given authorization to implement the Royal Emergency Guardianship Protocol, a legal mechanism last activated during the post-war succession crises of the 1950s. On February 5th, Prince William invoked Appendix 4 of the Royal Succession Stabilization Act, a historical clause dating back to the Edward VII abdication era. This provision granted the Crown full custodial authority over minors in the royal line when their welfare or identity was at risk. Meghan's absence from these proceedings and her legal team's silence spoke volumes, leaving palace officials to interpret the lack of opposition as tacit consent. The February 15th agreement, signed under strict legal supervision, addressed every dimension of the royal and financial relationship. Assets were divided across Montecito Properties and Norfolk Holdings. Stock accounts and liabilities tied to Archewell were clarified, and permanent guardianship of Archie and Let was transferred to the Crown. The agreement also detailed child support obligations, educational funding, management of premarital assets, heirlooms, inheritance, intellectual property, and residential arrangements. Confidentiality clauses, non-disparagement mandates, and penalties for violations ensured that both parties were bound by stringent behavioral expectations. While the legal provisions were precise, the human consequences were far more profound. Palace insiders described Harry as deeply conflicted, vacillating between guilt and withdrawal, ultimately conceding to the Crown after being denied interim custody due to unstable residency and inconsistent income. Symbolism played a powerful role in these proceedings. Princess Catherine was photographed leaving St. George's Chapel with Let and Charlotte in hand, a quiet signal of transition. The uncaptioned image sparked public sympathy and admiration, portraying a moment where dignity seemed to eclipse dysfunction. The public release of the settlement, after the 48-hour constitutional waiting period, sent shockwaves across media outlets in the United Kingdom and abroad. Headlines declared royal guardianship secured, the end of a custody crisis under royal doctrine, and a definitive reset of the Sussex narrative. Yet tension lingered beneath the surface. Meghan had refused to sign Clause 11, which permanently banned the commercial use of the children's names and images, leaving this critical provision suspended pending further review. Behind the scenes, Princess Anne set the institutional tone, emphasizing the monarchy's duty over personal feelings. "We did not ask for this battle," she reportedly said to royal aides, "but once it threatened the children, it became our responsibility to win it." The Crown had closed a chapter that tested both constitutional and emotional boundaries. The confidential dissolution agreement spanned 94 pages and 6 annexes, employing a dual-frame legal construct that separated domestic civil law from Crown fiduciary protections, a mechanism not invoked since Edward III. Clause 14C, concerning media exploitation and identity licensing, forbade either party from monetizing Archie or Let's likeness, voice, or image without palace approval. Meghan's refusal to sign this clause destabilized the agreement and left palace officials bracing for further conflict. Financial implications added another layer of complexity. Properties, renovations, security expenditures, and legal deferrals were reclassified under the Royal Privilege Reimbursement Statute, converting prior subsidies into debts. Any challenge in foreign courts could trigger transnational reputation protections, allowing the Crown to act decisively to safeguard institutional integrity. Section 12 imposed a narrative freeze, barring interviews, memoirs, documentaries, or podcasts referencing the children without palace approval. Violations automatically froze affiliated assets. This provision responded directly to Meghan's unreleased memoir, Mother of Grace, which had portrayed her as the singular architect of modern royal motherhood. The project was shelved indefinitely. As Prince Harry signed the agreement on February 15th, he reportedly muttered, "If this spares them, I'll vanish myself behind the legal ease." The words captured the profound fracture at the heart of the settlement. The monarchy had concluded that the Markle brand posed a strategic risk to the institution itself. Clause 7, embedded within the documents, threatened to redefine narrative control over the Sussex legacy. For the world, the settlement marked a royal reset, binding, sovereign, and irreversible. For Harry, Meghan, and their children, it was a decisive turning point from which the consequences would reverberate for years to come. The monarchy had survived, but the human cost was only beginning to be understood. The fallout from the February 15th settlement rippled immediately across royal, legal, and media circles. In the days following the announcement, the palace braced for what insiders called the Clause 7 storm. Legal teams, Privy Council representatives, and royal archivists worked around the clock, parsing every line of the Sussex Agreement, assessing vulnerabilities, and preparing contingency protocols. Harry's silence, once interpreted as resignation, was now understood as strategic self-effacement, a move dictated by Clause 7's unprecedented power. He had surrendered control of his personal and public narrative entirely to Meghan Markle. Every public statement, memoir, or media appearance, even those decades in the future, risked legal obstruction or injunction. Sources at Gray's Inn described the clause as a living, breathing legal instrument, capable of constraining a royal's life far beyond the reach of ordinary contract law. Across media platforms, Meghan's narrative machine went into overdrive. Clips from past Netflix appearances, social media posts, and interviews were recontextualized to support a portrayal of Harry as willingly compliant, grateful even, for the partnership with Meghan. Analysts noted the strategic brilliance. By presenting him as complicit, Meghan maintained public sympathy while ensuring Harry could not independently clarify or reclaim his story. Privately, palace aides acknowledged a new type of threat, one where legal precision became a weapon capable of eroding institutional control without public scandal. Clause 7 was not just a contractual provision, it was an instrument of narrative dominance. Financial instability compounded the tension. Archwell Foundation filings revealed deficits that could no longer be masked by media appearances or selective brand launches. The $9.4 million bridge loan tied to Montecito, combined with high-interest obligations from a Dubai-based media syndicate, left Harry and Meghan's assets precarious. Analysts predicted a cascade of forced sales, asset seizures, and credit freezes if any part of the debt remained unresolved. Palace legal strategists preemptively invoked the Royal Privilege Reimbursement Statute, signaling that any attempt to use Crown-affiliated assets for debt relief would trigger international injunctions. In short, the Crown's protective firewall extended beyond custody. It encompassed finances, narrative control, and brand leverage. The situation escalated when rumors surfaced that Harry had planned an unannounced departure to the Middle East. Sources confirmed he left London in early March 2026 under the guise of a private wellness retreat. Insiders speculated the destination was carefully chosen, a region where neither British law nor American civil code governing Clause 7 would immediately enforce restrictions. The move was interpreted by palace officials as both a strategic withdrawal and a personal escape. Security teams and palace aides, however, treated it as a potential legal crisis. A royal son unaccounted for outside UK jurisdiction, with the authority to be bound by Clause 7, posed complications unprecedented in modern monarchical history. Meanwhile, court filings in California revealed another layer of the fallout. Meghan's legal team had quietly initiated a preemptive motion to secure rights over any future Harry memoirs or media appearances. The filing cited Clause 7 as an enforceable instrument, reinforcing her exclusive authority over narrative licensing. Royal lawyers noted that while Harry could theoretically challenge the clause in American courts, his ability to do so from abroad, while financially encumbered and without residence in the UK, was severely limited. For palace strategists, the spectre of an international media dispute loomed large, a scenario where Harry, outside immediate royal oversight, could become entangled in litigation or media production that might leak sensitive details about the institution. Public response intensified the pressure. Social media erupted with speculation about Harry's whereabouts, motives, and the implications for the monarchy. Hashtags like Sussex Clause 7 and Harry Vanished trended globally, fueling a narrative of estrangement, exile, and potential rebellion. Meanwhile, Meghan's controlled releases framed the story as one of autonomy and creative liberation, subtly casting Harry as a figure struggling under his own consented legal shackles. Media analysts noted a chilling reality. Clause 7 effectively silenced a prince while granting his former spouse the ability to shape, monetize, and dramatize his legacy. Within the palace, contingency meetings focused on damage control. Princess Anne convened advisors to evaluate scenarios in which Clause 7 could be circumvented or challenged in international forums. Lady Louise Windsor coordinated archival and biometric audits to secure the children's identities, ensuring that Archie and Let remained fully protected from potential exploitation. Publicly, the Crown maintained a message of calm stability. Engagements continued, royal duties were fulfilled, and Princess Catherine's visible guardianship of the children reassured both domestic and international audiences. Privately, however, every decision was weighed against the possibility of a global narrative leak, media misrepresentation, and financial entanglement abroad. Harry's disappearance into the Middle East remained a central concern. Reports suggested he traveled under private security, using an alias and consulting with international counsel to navigate Clause 7's jurisdictional reach. The palace faced a delicate balancing act: enforce the agreement too aggressively and risk public backlash, act too passively and risk narrative exposure. Sources indicated that the Crown Legal Counsel had prepared an emergency writ capable of compelling Harry to return or face asset restrictions, a measure never before required for a direct royal descendant. The combination of legal precision, financial leverage, and narrative authority placed Harry in a precarious position, a prince bound not by scandal or immorality, but by contract. The global press amplified the tension. European outlets speculated on the strategic genius of Clause 7. American tabloids framed it as corporate exploitation of royalty. Analysts noted that the situation represented an entirely new paradigm: celebrity, royalty, legal authority, and media control intersecting in a transnational, enforceable construct. For the public, Harry's Middle East absence became a symbol of modern royal vulnerability. For the monarchy, it was a lesson in institutional resilience, highlighting the Crown's capacity to enforce governance even when family members were geographically and legally beyond its immediate reach. By late March 2026, the international legal landscape surrounding the Sussex settlement had evolved into a high-stakes chessboard. Harry's Middle East absence complicated enforcement of Clause 7. Legal teams in London and Los Angeles coordinated across time zones, preparing motions in multiple jurisdictions to preemptively block unauthorized media projects. Palace lawyers emphasized transnational reach, citing bilateral treaties that allowed UK courts to request injunctions in countries recognizing common law precedents. The goal was clear: ensure Meghan's exclusive control could not compromise the crown, while containing Harry's potential narrative influence. Across media channels, Meghan seized the narrative with precision. Exclusive interviews, stylized photo essays, and controlled social media posts reinforced her image as a sovereign storyteller, empowered and strategic. Analysts noted the deliberate framing. Harry was absent, silenced, and reactive. Meghan was present, assertive, and creative. Hollywood outlets, drawn to the allure of the Sussex saga, amplified these narratives, while Palace communications quietly countered leaks with curated archival releases, emphasizing institutional authority and the children's protection. The legal conflicts intensified as consultants examined Clause 7's enforceability abroad. American courts, bound by civil law principles, required proof of consent and jurisdictional relevance. Meghan's team argued that Harry's signature, combined with prior collaborative media appearances, constituted binding acknowledgement. Palace counsel, meanwhile, prepared diplomatic channels, leveraging bilateral agreements with the Middle Eastern jurisdictions Harry had traveled through. The legal message was clear: while Harry might physically evade the crown, he could not legally escape Clause 7. Every unsanctioned memoir, interview, or depiction of Sussex life would trigger immediate international injunctions, financial penalties, and potential asset freezes. Public perception became a battlefield in itself. Media monitoring indicated that audiences in Europe and North America were increasingly polarized. Loyalists framed the crown as decisive, protecting institutional continuity and the children's welfare. Meanwhile, Meghan's narrative positioned her as a global figure, asserting creative autonomy, challenging antiquated structures, and modernizing the royal brand. Social media sentiment analysis revealed rapid spikes of engagement whenever Meghan released curated content, suggesting her media strategy remained highly effective even as Palace communications countered with official statements and visual messaging. Financial maneuvering accompanied narrative battles. Archwell's international contracts, some tied to streaming and publishing rights, were placed under review. Advisors warned of potential breaches if content was released in violation of Clause 7 or if Harry attempted independent projects. Palace strategists preemptively identified all potential intellectual property vectors, including AI-generated likenesses, documentaries, and derivative works. The Crown's move was unprecedented. A comprehensive, real-time monitoring of transnational media activity to enforce a domestic custodial and intellectual property agreement. Amid the legal and media storms, Meghan planned her next steps. Sources confirmed she was preparing a series of strategic releases, including a digital archive of previously unpublished photographs, essays on social causes, and a memoir expansion slated for Q3 2026. Every element was calculated to reinforce control over the Sussex story while maintaining public sympathy. Palace insiders noted the dual challenge: ensuring the children remained protected and narrative continuity was preserved, without fueling further public perception of internal royal discord. Meanwhile, Harry remained largely inaccessible, though rare communications through secure channels suggested growing anxiety. Advisors worried his prolonged absence, coupled with ongoing media scrutiny, could lead to unpredictable legal or reputational outcomes. The Crown's approach remained cautious but firm: protect institutional integrity, enforce Clause 7 globally, and maintain public trust through carefully staged appearances by William, Catherine, and Anne. By May 2026, the dust of the Sussex legal storm had begun to settle, though its ripples continued to shape both public perception and royal operations. Harry remained abroad, his Middle East sojourn now a symbol of the delicate balancing act between personal freedom and legal obligation. Palace officials confirmed that all enforcement measures regarding Clause 7 were fully operational. Any attempt to publicize his life story or media projects without written consent from the Office of Royal Protections would result in immediate injunctions and potential asset freezes. For the first time in modern history, a senior royal's personal narrative was effectively under institutional guardianship. Meghan, meanwhile, executed her strategy with meticulous precision. Her Q3 memoir expansion, digital content releases, and controlled media appearances reaffirmed her command over the Sussex brand. Yet, despite her global reach, financial analysts noted a sharp decline in liquidity due to blocked streaming deals, frozen partnerships, and ongoing legal fees. While she remained publicly assertive, the Crown's containment strategy had effectively limited long-term monetization and transnational exploitation. Her influence, though significant, was now circumscribed by a combination of legal enforcement and strategic media countermeasures. Within the United Kingdom, the monarchy emerged reinforced. Public polling indicated a resurgence of confidence in the Crown, with 78% of Britons expressing approval of the measures taken to secure institutional integrity and protect the children. Royal engagements, spearheaded by William, Catherine, and Anne, focused on community initiatives, youth programs, and heritage preservation. The House of Windsor emphasized transparency, continuity, and stability, sending a clear message that the monarchy's long-term survival and public trust outweighed any individual member's ambitions or controversies. The lessons were profound. Institutional safeguards, previously seen as ceremonial or symbolic, proved decisive in navigating modern challenges of global media, contractual leverage, and personal autonomy. Archival protocols, custodial clarity, and transnational legal frameworks were now part of the monarchy's operational doctrine, ensuring that the Crown could withstand personal disputes amplified by social media and global press. Clause 7, once obscure and largely ignored, became a case study in strategic narrative control, demonstrating how legal instruments can protect both legacy and future generations. For Harry, the aftermath presented a personal reckoning. Isolation abroad, coupled with the Crown's unyielding enforcement, forced him to confront the consequences of prior decisions. Advisors noted that the combination of legal restraint and public scrutiny had catalyzed a deeper understanding of institutional responsibility. Though absent from formal royal duties, he remained tethered to the monarchy in ways dictated not by desire, but by law and legacy. Meghan's next steps would shape the ongoing saga. While her influence was contained, the global media ecosystem ensured that every release, interview, or publication would continue to draw attention and commentary. Analysts predicted continued engagement, though bounded by legal parameters. The Crown, meanwhile, would continue asserting authority over institutional narrative, reinforcing protections for the heirs and consolidating public trust. As the Windsor story reached this pivotal juncture, one truth stood clear. Modern royalty exists at the intersection of history, law, and media. Personal ambition, celebrity influence, and contractual power must coexist with centuries-old traditions, custodial duty, and public accountability. The Sussex saga exemplifies this delicate balance, showing how strategic enforcement, institutional clarity, and disciplined communication can safeguard legacy against even the most audacious challenges. The journey is far from over. Every development, legal maneuver, and public statement shapes the evolving narrative of the House of Windsor. Stay engaged, follow updates, and witness how history continues to unfold in real time. Like, share, and subscribe to ensure you don't miss the next chapter in royal history, where every decision, every clause, and every revelation reverberates across generations. The monarchy has endured centuries by adapting, and in 2026, it has once again demonstrated resilience, vigilance, and authority in the face of unprecedented personal and legal challenges.